in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the setting flow I just built out for one of my offers. It's an AI appointment setting offer. So the AI will actually be using this flow. We're going to plug and play it in. For anyone interested in the AI, just go ahead, check out some of my other videos on the channel. I break down, how we have the AI structured to run conversations that sound exactly like a human. But essentially, when people DM me, I'm going to have the AI take the conversation, and this is the flow I'm going to use. So whether you're using AI, whether you're using a real human setup, they need a step-by-step formula, a roadmap to take someone from a stranger to a booked call. If you're just shooting in the dark, you're never going to scale and you're never going to succeed because there's no replicatable blueprint. So this is why you need a setting flow, and you need a good one. And I'm going to be breaking down the psychology, the process, everything like that in this video. So let's start out. Firstly, people are inbound DMing me the word test. So the AI will be programmed to say, yo name, Siri reaching out for my dialed AI setter. Let me guess, your setter is the R word, okay? Now the reason why we're doing this is just to be funny, okay? Take everything I say here with a grain of salt, because it's extremely difficult to set, especially when people know they're talking to AI. It needs to be funny, it needs to be charismatic, it needs to be likable, and so many things. So that's why we're kind of taking things to the extreme right here. What's your biggest bottleneck with the setting right now? So bang, first thing, we grab that problem, that big pain point they have. And once again, yeah, I feel you. And then it's going to have a custom acknowledgement, right? Let's say that they say their setter is slow. Yeah, I feel you. I've had to hire 30 plus setters in my time and it sucks. That's a custom acknowledgement based on what they say. With like a real setter, obviously you can train it to do this. With the AI that I have, Informatic, you can just kind of tell it to do that. Anyway, from there, it's then saying, that's why I hate humans, lol. That's just like a funny joke. And then we have forced at Matt to fire his setter because I 3x his performance from 11 calls to 29 calls in my first week. So what we've done here is we've acknowledged it. Now, when it comes to actually having a setting flow, acknowledgement is extremely important. Acknowledgement makes them feel heard. It makes the conversation feel genuine. And it also kind of uses a bit of a confirmation bias because it's lessening the pain and it's making it feel more relatable, okay? Then it has a joke here. Once again, jokes kind of ease off the pain once again. And then we have a testimonial here to just build a bit of authority, establish a status. Now, if you're running direct DM ads, this is extremely important to build a frame of authority because people don't really like you or trust you if you're not using this. And then we're kind of agitating it, right? We're working how long this problem has been. So once again, you can tell your setter, it's really important to really use the info they're giving you kind of against them. For your setter, you say, look, when they say their biggest bottleneck, you then want to actually say how long is slow replies being the bottleneck for. So you're kind of narrowing it down. Once again, with the AI, that's kind of programmed in. How much does that cost? And then you just say, damn, okay, that's kind of that kind of sucks. Well, how much has that cost? Sorry guys, it's literally 1 a.m. right now. I'm a bit tired. And then how much has that cost you? Obviously without looking at the crystal ball, lol, just semi ballpark. So the terminology here is really chill, and especially for B2B, that's really important because if these people are really sophisticated, okay? When it comes to B2B, everyone is sophisticated, and sophisticated buyers, if anything is off, they're done. So it needs to be completely dialed. And so we're speaking exactly like our ICP speaks, and we're making sure we're not asking anything too crazy or too difficult to answer, because the problem that I see a lot of people have when it comes to having their flows is they ask complex problems where the answer doesn't immediately come to mind. If someone has to think of, an essay, a massive paragraph to reply to you, they're never going to reply, because think about it. Instagram is such an engaging platform. They have reels, they have stories, they have their friends to get back to, and yet you're asking them to almost type out an essay. I see some ridiculous questions where it's like, how do you feel about XYZ complexing? And number one, it's a bullshit question. It doesn't do anything for the conversation. Guys, the little reason I made this AI setting tool is out of pain, because I've had to hire 30 setters and it fucking sucks, all right? I'm gonna be swearing right now. It sucks because of the useless questions they ask, the not following instructions that they do. And I see so many people just ask questions that aren't even relevant to the conversation, that don't do anything for the conversation. And that's why they're like, oh, why am I getting left on scene? Why are my prospects dropping off? Something's wrong with the ads. No, bro, you're asking people to type a paragraph in an Instagram DM, and you're asking people to think. If someone has to think about their answer, what is this guy asking me? Okay, now how do I formulate this answer? Okay, now I need to type it out. Okay, now I need to proofread it because it's a big paragraph. It's not going to work. You need to ask questions which people can answer in one word or a few more, like a sentence at absolute tops. And that should only be after there's some depth in the convo. What we did here is we kind of gave them an easy option to the question. That's why this works right here. Otherwise, I wouldn't advise it, okay? So avoid stupid questions and avoid questions where you're asking people to give you a massive response because you don't even need it. You can ask a lot of these things on the sales call. As long as you get the call booked and you know they're qualified, you're good. Now, in my instance, we can tell if someone's qualified by just looking at their profile just because of the nature of this offer. But aside from that, the other mistake I see everyone making is asking two questions. It's like, okay, how long have you been dealing with that? And how does that make you feel or something? And it's like, why are you asking people two questions? You know, these people have such a low RAM, right? They have their RAM, which is like their short-term memory, right? The short-term power they have to process your request. And people have a very limited amount, especially on social media. And you're like overwhelming them with two questions. Never ask two questions. Only ask simple questions that can instantly be understood and that can be instantly replied to, and save as much as you can for the sales call, okay? Now, you can see right here, just after getting to the pain, we're now saying, that sounds horrible, let's run a demo, and I have my dad. Now, when we say my dad, it's just being funny once again, because obviously it's AI saying this. They know it's AI, and so dad is kind of referring to me. Show you how I can book bare appointments for your business. Now, once again, this is how our ICP speaks. I wouldn't advise it if your ICP doesn't speak like this, and then bet you wouldn't have even noticed you've been speaking to an AI this entire time. Bit funny. I'm gonna send you a cal if you're game. Now, for a B2C market, you would say like, how about I send you my scheduling link and you can find a time that works for you. But because I'm in this like really niche B2B space, you can say stuff like cal, and because I'm speaking like them, it builds that relatability, which is really important. Then when they say yes, we just send the link and we have any of these work. Another thing I see so many people do is they don't ask questions. They send statements. Listen, once again, people are in their dumbest state on Instagram. And if you don't ask them a question, then they're like, okay, how am I going to reply to this guy? As soon as someone thinks, how do I reply to this? That's when you've lost. That's game over. If you don't ask a question that triggers an instant reply inside their mind that they can type out with no difficulty at all, you're done. Like, it's not gonna work, right? I see people just sending statements to people and expecting them to reply, expecting them to be almost like, the masculine one in that conversation, when it's like, no, you need to be the one pursuing it. You need to ask a conversation after every single statement you say. So the general kind of process is 1, acknowledgement, and then 2, question. If you can do these two things and you can kind of get that in a direction, then you have a setting flow. So you can see right here, we're acknowledging what they're saying, right? So they feel understood, they don't feel like they're getting interrogated. And then we're asking them a question that's not bullshit and it's relevant to the conversation, okay? So from here we come to objection handles. Now, we foresee that the biggest objection people are gonna give is my setter is already good. And so we have a funny joke right here, kind of expanding on the funny joke, and then this is really just playing with the person. We're trying to like make sure it's not like a whole thing of like low frame where it's us trying to prove ourselves to them, but it's like we're dismissing it with humor, and then we're basically asking them a question. Okay, once again, easy question, ballpark. Then, okay, sweet amount, I see you, homie. How many qualified appointments are you booking from that though? And then, damn, that's actually so in the trenches. Once again, this is how our ICP speaks. And then it kind of jokes, if only there was an AI setter who helped, and then we kind of have like a relevant case study for that. So who helped my client Matt do X from Y leads, and kind of like paint a picture relevant to them. So if they say they're getting 10 leads a week, we say book 5 calls from 10 leads. So the setter is kind of programmed to create a case study that's relevant to them. And then how come you're not booking more calls? Simple question. Okay, another one, how much? And then this is another funny one. Haha, you really thought they didn't restrict my code to price dropping in the DMs. I'm not that gullible. It's pay per results though. That's all I know. Now, for objections, this is the only place where you can really get away with not asking a question. Psychology behind that is if they're asking how much, they're already pretty invested. And so at that point, they're going to reply no matter what. And then to anyone messing around, we're just going to disqualify them. After this, we want a really simple follow-up process. Don't want anything insane. After 30 minutes, only if they've left you on red, say yo. A lot of people sometimes they have their RAM overwhelmed once again, and they just, they can't be bothered to reply, or they're out and about, or they're at dinner and they see it and they're going to reply later, but then they forget. Like after 30 minutes, only if people have left you on scene, then you can just say yo. Then after a day, you can say yo, like this is just a funny one. Yo, big boss, name, 2 days. I'm definitely pretty enough for you to respond. So what's going on here? Once again, funny. And a question, 4 days. Why are you not replying? Better be out saving the world or something. Just humor. Humor really lifts things up and it makes it less salesy, less confrontational, which is really important. So look, this is how you build a setting flow. This is the psychology behind it. It's not hard. I see so many people struggling with setting, and the reason they struggle with setting is because they overcomplicate it. If you didn't overcomplicate it and you just made a blueprint, a roadmap from A to Z, from stranger to booked call, then 99% of your problems will be solved. Because as Jordan Belfort said in The Wolf of Wall Street, every sell is the same. It's the same thing with setting. Every set is the same. You create a process that you can run people through, and then you do it, and you can get sidetracked, but then you just come back to the script and you set them. Simple as that. Subscribe to me for daily videos like these on my YouTube. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one. Peace.